Hello YouTube, and I welcome all of you back to another Rage video where tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be doing another Lilly Allen song for you today, guys, because the more I think about it, ladies and gentlemen, because doing The Fear was not nearly enough for me to really sort of like talk about how influential Lilly Allen is. Now, you may be wondering, okay, I said Taylor Swift by accident, it's all that. However, it was not an accident, because to actually begin this video, I have to first talk about Taylor Swift. And this is sort of like an issue I have with pop music in general. But to do that, we have to first take a look. We'll do like a compare and contrast. Now, Taylor Swift also did a song a few years later called 22. I think she did in like 2013, I think. Now, Taylor Swift was already kind of a fairly popular singer at this point. Long before she did stuff like Shake It Off and, what was it, Bad Blood, I think? But let me just, and listen, whether I believe definitely Taylor Swift wrote this, but it also highlights a problem I have with her writing. So, here's how the lyrics go. I'm not going to do like a 100% comparison because I kind of like want to make this first part about kind of like explaining the problems I have with Taylor's music and her influence and the things I like about Lilly's influence and what I think she means to music. So, this is 22 by Taylor Swift. It feels like a perfect night to dress up like hipsters. You might argue the first problem right there is that who uses the word hipsters nowadays? And that's a good point. Who is going to be using this sort of terminology? Language changes more often than politicians, dynasties, more than currency perhaps. Because it's always changing. We always find new ways to describe things. And to be honest, it's not so much that hipsters is, but the fact is that in the real world, people don't say those sort of things. Or maybe this was just because the word was somehow popular at the time, like swag or banter, for example. It was funny and popular, and then it kind of just stopped being that sort of thing. And make fun of our exes. Now, you might argue, indeed, this was written sort of like in the mindset of perhaps a teenage girl, perhaps. Or maybe the perception of what exactly, or maybe sort of like, I'm going to say at least like 20 or 22. That's the sort of demographic they're going for here. The idea that women already have ex-boyfriends and they're using this very young person, lexicon, you might say. Now, now listen, I don't have a problem with that exactly. That's not the issue I have. The issue I have is that what you think? Is that maybe this is the idea. Maybe it's just sort of like a party-ish sort of environment. It feels like a perfect night for breakfast at midnight. I have no comment about that. Who the hell has breakfast at midnight? To fall in love with strangers. Well, meeting people over the internet can only ever end one way. And then, yeah, we're happy, free, confused, and lonely at the same time. It's miserable and magical. Oh yeah. Tonight's the night when we forget about the deadlines. It's time. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 22. Everything will be alright if you keep me next to you. You don't know about me, but I'll bet you want to. Everything will be alright if we just keep dancing like we're 22. Maybe this is like the idea that these people are far older and that they've moved on from this. This would be fine if the song itself is kind of a little bit like other Taylor Swift songs. They are it's the sort of things you'd hear on the radio every now and then. It seems like the phrase I'm looking for is that it seems like a bit too, out of this world. I'm not saying I disbelieve them. It's not that I'm saying that, Taylor Swift has never actually, experienced any of these things before. But it's just, it seems like she's just sort of written this from the sort of thing that to be relatable. That's what the issue I find is that she's trying a bit too hard to be relatable. It seems like one of those nights, the place is too crowded, too many cool kids, uh-oh. Who's Taylor Swift anyway? Ew. I'm not making that part up, that's actually in the song, which seems a bit self-serving, to be honest, because she's trying to bring up the mentality that, she's not popular. Well, Taylor, even before you put this song out, you were already kind of well known. You got upstaged by Kanye West, of all people. Think about what that does for your credibility. Now, I'm sort of like not really going to go through the rest of this because I think I've kind of like made my point where I feel as if like it's just... You get the idea. Well, okay, here's actually what it says. Did this happen in real life? Is this something created from a real event? Yes and no. The song is partly based on her 22nd birthday, but the lyrics are also retrospective of what she described as being her favourite year in life. Taylor, listen to me. And I'm going to make this a point by the time we talk about Lily Allen in just a second. The best year of your possibility... what was it? Her favourite year in life. Taylor... I think Taylor's like about 30 or maybe 31 by now. You've still got a long way to go. And it's still far too early to start making, saying, all these things now. And I don't know, maybe that's just part about it. For me, being 22 has been my favourite year of life. I like all the possibilities of how you're still learning, but you know enough. You still know nothing, but you know that you know nothing. You're old enough to start planning your life. But you're young enough to know that there are so many unanswered questions. Okay, so I'll be completely fair to Taylor. She's going at this in the perspective of the optimist, the very, very optimistic sort of person. Now, with that being said, I'm going to start talking about Lily Allen's 22 in a second because she paints a slightly more bleaker picture. So, if you guys want to check out the original video for yourselves, links will all be in the description down below. Let's begin. 22 in 3, 2, 1, and...
When she was 22, the future looked bright. But she's nearly 30 now, and she's out every night. I see that look in her face, she's got that look in her eye. She's thinking, how did I get here? Wondering why. It's sad but it's true, how society says her life is already over. There's nothing to do and there's nothing to say.
You see right there, ladies and gentlemen, that is the whole point I'm trying to get across, is that it's all well and good to be this very, very vibrant, this very optimistic person. And it's all right to surround yourself with music that constantly tells you, yo, dude, it's fine. Getting old is fine. And you could still be young, vibrant, fresh, all those things. The reality, however, is very, very different. Because once that radio or that iPod is turned off and you begin to breathe in the air and you begin to look all around you and then you hear all sorts of different noises, that is when reality sets in. And that's the thing about Lily Allen's music, is that she doesn't, dress up. She doesn't present, life is just terrible from this point onward. But rather, more often than not, this is what happens. Not because we want it to happen, but because we grow up. And you know what? Lily Allen is grown up. Taylor Swift is grown up. Do you think Taylor Swift, years later after writing 22, her life has been, she feels as if she knows everything right now? Because I get it, she's obviously changed and she's obviously done things very differently, and you might argue that's part of her success, is that people like listening to her, and she has a very, very... She has what you might call it's sort of like a clash of two different worlds. Taylor Swift obviously has, you might say, the benefit of being in America, and obviously big record labels would want to be after her. And you might also argue that Lily Allen's slightly more satirical take on real life is at best a bit too depressing for like a wider audience. However, that's why I wanted to come back and talk about Lily Allen's song in detail, because when you come to think of it, ladies and gentlemen, at some point, hopefully all of us have been at that age in our lives. There are many people who haven't. Tentacion died at 21. He never found out what it was like to be 22. That's just one example I can list off right there. And also, I'm just going to go through some of the lyrics just very quickly. When she was 22, the future looked bright. Maybe possibly Taylor Swift thought that as well. Or maybe it was true. Maybe the opposite was true. Maybe Taylor Swift wasn't in a good place right then. That's the thing. It's kind of like fascinating, because sometimes I feel like music reflects the mindset of the people who write it. It's their inspiration for why this came into being in the first place. So, was Taylor Swift in a good place or not? Because I heard apparently Lily Allen actually, not only did she reflect on herself, but she also went out and talked to other people about how do they feel now that they're getting older. But she's nearly 30 now, and now she's out every night. You could say that's an allegory for, her being a prostitute, or the fact that she's desperately trying to recapture the old times. Being 22, being young, free and single. I see that look in her face, she's got that look in her eye. Perhaps someone who doesn't know where they're going, doesn't know what they're doing with their life. People can tell that by looking people in the eye. Eyes are very, very expressive things. They can reflect fatigue, tiredness, an upsetting nature because they're maybe trapped in a routine, abuse, stuff like that. She's thinking, how did I get here, and wondering why. Sometimes we all think like that. Sometimes things just happen. Things happen, and the cause and effect is that we get here. Irrespective of what I think about what the line of and now she's out every night, whether or not you want to say that this is the story of a prostitute or not, what is clear is that sometimes that life isn't all it's cracked out to be. And even if it is not exactly as how we expected, it is the result and not the cause of getting older. You can have fun at 22, you can have fun at 30. The issue is that, again, going back to Taylor Swift, is that Taylor Swift seems to think that, this is encompassing a whole bunch of people. People mature and get older are very, very different things, and they can happen at different times in people's lives. Take that from me, ladies and gentlemen, because there are people I know from school who are still basically the same as they were 10 years ago. Put that into perspective.
About it brings her to tears, 'cause all she wants is a boyfriend. She gets one night stands. She's thinking, how did I get here? I'm doing all that I can. It's sad but it's true, how society says her life is already over. There's nothing to do,
It seems so unlikely in this day and age. Now, just to criticise Lily Allen's, but just very slightly, is that I would say I would rather have the line changed from "it seems so unlikely in this day and age." It seems so unlikely now that I've had more time to think about it. The idea is that obviously as you get older, you're expected to think and take care of yourself. And if you were to really think about it, this is absolutely not the case. Although you might say again, this is maybe a sign of maybe naivete that the woman they're talking about in this video is that it's not nearly as true as they think. And then of course they use lines like, what was it? Because all she wants is a boyfriend. She gets one night stands. Again, that's probably adding more weight to the idea that she's after something, or this is all that's she could think to do. And maybe that's another part about this I'm not entirely sure I understand, because listen, when I was 10 years old, ladies and gentlemen, I first read a manga called Absolute Boyfriend. It was really like the first manga series I actually ever finished. And the only part now that I've had the chance to like read up on it again nearly 13 years later, is why is it do women really have it as hard as men in terms of like getting into a relationship? Because I always thought like the stigma was that men will always come across as creepy when they want to be seen as charming, or that, you know, they don't know what to say and they just say they let their hearts out. So I know, shocker in that it's not easy for women as well, but well, I don't really have actually more to say about that. Maybe that is true, but the fact is that I might actually have to ask that somewhere, because to be honest, it's not, because let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, men would turn away women for almost something like the same reason that women would turn away men. Income, looks, affluence, career. Because I love the part, because this really, really does resonate with me. She's got an alright job, but it's not a career. If I could turn what I'm doing right now into a career, ladies and gentlemen, I would be absolutely on top of it. But for right now, for what it's worth, it's good. I'm aware it's not going to last forever. And that's maybe the mindset again of these people, is that this is not going to last forever. Whether you want to say, certainly from perhaps my point of view, is that it's not going to last forever in terms of the contract of my job, or whether or not I have to keep doing it, is a very good question to ask. Whenever she thinks about it, it brings her to tears. I know, I'm actually going to bring up a video. I'll tell you what, I'm going to break away from this for a second, because there's a very specific sort of video I want to reference as well to what I know she means about that. Where's the I know there's a I know fine well there's a very specific sort of video I'm looking for. Ah, here it is. For those who've never seen this before, I highly recommend... oh, not this one. Where is it? Ah, here it is. I'd highly recommend checking this one out, because this sort of like highly represents exactly the idea of it brings her to tears whenever she thinks about it. Whenever she thinks about her life and what has led her to this point. This is... I think for many, many thousands of people, I mean, just take a listen. Watch this. I know we're getting off topic here, but I want to emphasize this.
Good morning, Wagey. You're 2 minutes late. Get in, KG.
I work 9 to 5 and I'm falling fast. When I was a wage cock.
Can you come in tomorrow?
There you are, ladies and gentlemen. That's exactly what I'm talking about right there. It's when, in spite of that, you just wanna break down because it's not the life you thought you would live. Now, is it?
It's sad but it's true how society says her life is already over. There's nothing to do and there's nothing to say. Until the man of her dreams comes along, picks her up and puts her over his shoulder. It seems so unlikely in this day and age.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was 22 by Lilly Allen. It's still she's still I think exactly one of the ideal sort of like song mistresses that I would absolutely go to, because like I said before, ladies and gentlemen, when you come to think about it, songs like Taylor Swift's 22, modern pop songs can take you out of the stream of life for a few seconds. They can fill you with joy. They can fill you with something very ecstatic. They can make you feel, young and hip and trendy. But at some point, ladies and gentlemen, there comes a point where you have to accept it. This is your life. This is where you are at right now because of what you've done, or maybe because you've yet to understand that, you missed the boat, or you had no idea what you were going to do with your life, and this is what happens. Lilly Allen herself has actually said this is more or less for people that haven't worked out exactly what they're going to do with their lives. But their lives have already taken effect. They've already begun. Even when you get to the age of 22, you're still 22 years on this planet. And just to give you guys some perspective, I'm 23 right now, and people have already made comments that my hair is starting to thin. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. And I know, and it's where even, listen, you might argue it's very sort of like depressing because nobody really wants to be told this sort of thing, because, not because it's true, but because life is sometimes miserable enough as it is without people having to be ham-fisted the point that, yes, it is miserable, so why do we need to pay even more attention to it? Because, well, do you want to be miserable for the rest of your lives? Is that really what you want to do for yourself? There are many, many great things you can do, ladies and gentlemen, no matter what age you are. But the fact is that you've got to want to do it. That's what I'm talking about. And if 22 from Lilly Allen was to prove that point, then absolutely. If Taylor Swift wanted to prove the point that they could still have young and be silly and have fun, then that's absolutely fine. That's her right as well, as much as any other. But Lily Allen she still uncovers what is a very dark secret about life, is that people get older, and sometimes it doesn't even matter whether or not you have an alright job or a boyfriend, or you're constantly going out every single night or not. What matters, ladies and gentlemen, is that they are your decisions, because it was your decisions that perhaps got you into this stage in your life already. And it will be your decisions, what you do then, and possibly even in the future, that will decide you where you're going to go in life. I know many people myself who are in this sort of trap, and there's another very famous song called Rap Trap by the Boomtown Rats, which has of all people, who is it? Bob Geldof as their lead singer. I'm going to leave a link to that song in the description down below because it's a fantastic song. Now, again, like I said, there are many people who are caught in this situation in their lives where they feel as if like there's just nothing to do and there's nothing to say. But there is still plenty to do and there is still plenty to say. Because yeah, people simply you don't just give up hope that easily. You never lose, even for an instant, the sense of honor and pride that you have for the things you have done in your life that have given you great satisfaction. Everything and anything counts. It might be that for some people, I could say for mine certainly is that maybe not all of my hopes and dreams and works have been fulfilled, no matter how much I wanted them or how much I wanted to put in the effort to work towards them. But I am still fully conscious and aware that I am not as other people my age. If I went hungry, ladies and gentlemen, I would know fine well that I still have the sense to, save up to actually, afford and just go out get some food. Because I still at least have a job and have a right to earn, so to speak. No one can take away your right to want you to make you do better for yourself, ladies and gentlemen. If I worked hard, well, at the very least, I could say that I'm working for myself. I could say perfectly well that I have just about as much right, if anybody has a right to anything in this day and age, that I could work towards obtaining my dreams. The job I may have now is not my career. That is not the fullest extent of what I can do. And there are many, many thousands of people like that who would love that opportunity and perhaps are doing it at this very moment. They've just got to get ready for when the dawn breaks and their big break finally begins. And think about all that, ladies and gentlemen, is that we work hard, we play hard. At least no one among us walks about on 4 legs. None of us start calling other people master just because they are superior to us financially or whatever else. All people are equal. Or all animals are equal. So anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this reaction video, ladies and gentlemen, to 22 by Lily Allen. Please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys thought of 22 for yourselves, and I will hope to see you guys again in the next video. Take care. Bye for now.